Have you noticed how strange vegetable prices are this year? In the past, around July or August, seasonal vegetables used to cost about 1 yuan or even a few cents per half kilo. You could buy a bunch of veggies for just over 10 yuan. But now, even buying just a little costs dozens of yuan. I recently watched some videos where they say green beans were so cheap you couldn't even finish them all. But now they are 4 to 5 yuan per half kilo in the supermarket. Cucumbers have also gone up to 3 to 4 yuan per half kilo, which is about what prices were during the New Year's season. And fruit? Forget it. You can hardly find anything under 3 yuan anymore. For someone like me earning 3,000 yuan a month, it's getting hard to afford meals.
One blogger shared an even more shocking experience at his local vegetable market, where prices have become unbelievably high. Cucumbers, which used to cost around 2 yuan per half kilo, are now selling for nearly 8 yuan. In some places, 2 cucumbers are priced at 10 yuan, and in others, eggplants are going for 15 yuan per half kilo, over 5 times their usual cost. The most surprising increase is with spinach, which has surged to 19 yuan per half kilo. Prices for meals on high-speed trains have also reached outrageous levels, with a single meal now costing 60 yuan.
Can someone tell me since when high-speed train food got this expensive? A meal like this costs 60 yuan. Let's see what's inside. Some bamboo shoots, a rib, one kind of vegetable, one shrimp, and a box of rice. 60 yuan for that.
In 2017, boxed meals on China's high-speed trains were priced at 15 yuan. By 2023, they had 2 tiers at 30 yuan and 45 yuan. Now, the price has soared to 60 yuan, showing a rapid increase over the years. The biggest rise in vegetable prices across China has been seen in the Shanghai area. According to the official WeChat account of Shanghai TV's news channel, the price of cucumbers in mid-June was 1.8 yuan per half kilo. By the end of July, it had risen to 4.6 yuan, and by August 14th, it had jumped to 6.3 yuan per half kilo. Lettuce saw a similar increase, climbing from just over 2 yuan per half kilo to between 4 and 5 yuan. One Shanghai resident posted a video saying, "Vegetables in Shanghai are now more expensive than meat. I can't even afford to eat them anymore." His video showed price tags at a supermarket, with mushrooms at 7.8 yuan per half kilo, shiitake mushrooms at 15.8 yuan, snap beans at 14.8 yuan, and snow peas at 13.8 yuan per half kilo. Across the country, people have been commenting online about the rapidly rising vegetable prices in their cities. For example, in Zhejiang, cucumbers are now 9 yuan per half kilo, while water spinach is 6 yuan. In Liaoning, cucumbers are also 9 yuan. In Jining, cucumbers are 6 yuan per half kilo. And in Wuxi, peppers have almost reached 10 yuan. Meanwhile, in Hubei, green beans are priced at 7 yuan per half kilo. One commenter from Shandong noted, "Cucumbers in Zibo are now 6 yuan per half kilo. I'm 50 years old, and this is the first time I've ever seen cucumber prices this high in the summer." A resident from Yunnan shared, "Peaches in Yunnan used to be 5 to 6 yuan per half kilo, but now they're 13 to 15 yuan, completely unaffordable." Watermelons, which cost 2.5 yuan per half kilo last year, have now risen to between 3.8 and 8 yuan per half kilo. Imagine not being able to afford watermelon in the summer. It's terrifying. Since July, 14 out of 28 common vegetables in Sichuan have seen price increases at the farm level. Mustard greens, cucumbers, eggplants, scallions, and lotus roots have all risen by more than 50%. This upward trend has continued into August. Data from the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs shows that from June 16th to August 15th, the average daily price of 28 monitored vegetables across the country increased from 4.3 yuan per kilo to 6 yuan per kilo, an increase of almost 41%. The weekly price peaked during the 30th week of the year, from July 22nd to 28th, reaching 4.9 yuan per kilo, the highest price in nearly a decade. This sharp price increase hasn't spared Beijing either. A Chinese social media blogger reported on July 17th that according to data from Xinfadi Wholesale Market in Beijing, The prices of vegetables like leeks, loofahs, zucchinis, and tomatoes have fluctuated the most. Meanwhile, scallions have shown a clear upward trend. Beijing residents have also noticed that cucumber prices have jumped from 2 yuan per half kilo to 7 yuan. Small bok choy has risen from 2 to 6 yuan per half kilo, and green peppers have gone from 2 to 5 yuan. Only eggplants have seen a relatively small increase, going from 1.8 yuan to 2.8 yuan per half kilo. Among fruits, watermelon has seen the steepest price increase. According to data from the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, watermelon was among the top 5 agricultural products with the largest price increases on August 8th. The price surge for watermelon has been so dramatic that many wholesalers have remarked on how intense the rise has been. On August 13th, reporters from China learned from farmers markets and fruit shops in Nanjing, Jiangsu, that watermelon prices have continued to climb. Seedless watermelons, in particular, have seen their prices surge over the past 2 weeks to 5 yuan per half kilo. In Wenzhou, watermelons that were selling for 1 yuan per half kilo in early June have now risen to 6 yuan. A retailer in Wenzhou remarked that the recent price increase for watermelons is absurd, saying, "Many customers complain about how expensive watermelons are now and end up buying other fruits instead." In Nanjing, Wang Rui, head of business development at the Zhongcai Fruit Market, said that watermelon sales have seen significant changes this year compared to previous years. Normally, sales would be tapering off by now, but this year, even after the start of autumn, watermelons are still in high demand, and wholesale prices continue to rise. It's an unusual situation. In Xiamen, supermarkets and fruit shops are showing even higher prices. Kirin watermelons are now priced at 10 yuan per kilogram, and Ganbi watermelons, as well as those labeled as premium or selected, have reached 12 yuan per kilogram, double the price they were in June. Because of the sharp rise in watermelon prices, some farmers across China have even broken contracts and raised prices on the spot. Chinese media reported incidents in Ningxia's selenium-rich sand watermelon production areas, where farmers have backed out of agreements to raise prices. In one case, Mr. Zhang, a buyer for a wholesale market in Hubei province, had agreed to purchase a truckload of watermelons at 0.5 yuan per half kilo, paying a 3,000 yuan deposit. But before the agreed pickup time, the farmer called, demanding an increase of 0.05 yuan per half kilo. After negotiations, they settled on a 0.02 yuan increase. In the end, due to the farmer's breach of contract, Mr. Zhang ended up paying an additional 1,200 yuan. Experts believe that extreme weather is the main reason for this year's soaring vegetable and fruit prices, in addition to supply and demand factors. Experts quoted in the Economic Daily explained that many regions in China were hit by heavy rainfall, thunderstorms, and strong winds this summer, particularly in provinces like Hunan, Shandong, Sichuan, and Anhui. These extreme weather conditions sharply reduced vegetable production, with fields submerged in water and roads damaged, severely impacting the harvesting and transportation of crops. This supply shortage is what has driven up prices in the market. Renowned financial blogger Little Black Finance also pointed out that the difficulty in transporting vegetables due to extreme weather has been a major factor in the price surge. He explained that heavy rains flooded many of the country's main vegetable growing areas, wiping out crops. After the rain subsided, intense heat followed, creating a situation known as drought-flood abrupt alternation. The combination of heavy rain and high temperatures has made transporting vegetables more challenging. It's not that truck drivers are unwilling to deliver in the heat, but that the high temperatures cause significant spoilage during transit. The cost of these spoiled vegetables is then passed on to consumers through higher prices. The man featured in the video is a vegetable farmer who knows the market well. Speaking about the current state of the vegetable market and what lies ahead, he said, "If you go to the supermarket or the vegetable market now, there are no cheap vegetables anymore. Whether it's eggplants, melons, or leafy greens, prices are high across the board. This is the most expensive it's been in years, which is giving some hope to farmers who've been struggling for a while. The high prices are mostly because of last month's heavy rains and high temperatures in many areas. Crops that were already grown either died off or got flooded. And even the areas that weren't affected had low yields because of heat-related diseases. Now that autumn is here and the temperatures are cooling down and the rain warnings are over, prices for protected planting vegetables like cucumbers and gourds should start dropping first. But for leafy greens, tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants, which take longer to mature, prices will likely stay high for a while. Tomatoes in particular are in short supply, so the prices could go even higher. However, many people are not convinced by these conclusions. Some believe that vegetables today are sold in bulk, like in warehouse-style wholesale, taking on a futures trading aspect, so even a slight change in the weather gives middlemen a chance to inflate prices and make a profit. Surveys from the production areas show that the fluctuations in output are minor, and logistics are only briefly affected. Yet, by the time these products reach the consumer, prices have multiplied. Extreme weather, they argue, should not be used as an excuse for these wild price hikes. Others believe that this surge in prices isn't just a temporary effect of extreme weather, nor is it the result of capitalists looking to profit. They argue that in a highly controlled country like China, capital doesn't have the power to manipulate prices like this. Instead, they suggest that the government is deliberately controlling prices to stimulate the economy and boost consumption. As China's economy continues to crumble, sped up by the collapse of the real estate sector, the trend of downgraded consumption among the public is becoming more obvious. This goes directly against the government's hopes of stimulating spending and reviving the economy. According to the 2023 Workplace Insights report, 71% of respondents said they've downgraded their spending. About 34% said they now spend less than 20 yuan a day on food. And nearly 80% said their rent or mortgage costs less than 3,000 yuan a month. The South China Morning Post also covered this trend, noting that Chinese consumers are now more focused on price and value when buying clothes, rather than brand names. This has created challenges for international brands like Uniqlo and Nike, which now have to compete with cheaper no-name brands in China. As this trend grows stronger, even once popular domestic brands like Guizhou Maotai have seen their prices drop. In June, wholesale prices for Feitian Maotai plummeted to 2,200 yuan. According to Fitch Ratings analysts, the first half of this year saw the slowest growth in China's restaurant industry since 2010, apart from the pandemic. Growth dropped below 8%, and this trend is now spreading to the clothing, cosmetics, and jewelry sectors. The pressure on retail sales and the decline in luxury sales show this clearly. On August 15th, China's National Bureau of Statistics reported that from January to July, total retail sales of consumer goods grew by 3.5% compared to the same period last year. However, this growth rate slowed by 0.2 percentage points compared to the period from January to June, and by 1.2 percentage points compared to the first quarter. Since March, retail sales growth has faced increasing pressure. In April, the year-on-year growth was just 2.3%, dropping to 2% in June, the lowest point since the beginning of 2023, before rising slightly to 2.7% in July. The slowdown in retail sales growth is most evident in China's four major cities, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. In the first half of the year, both Beijing and Shanghai saw negative year-on-year growth in retail sales, with Beijing down 0.3% and Shanghai down 2.3%. Guangzhou and Shenzhen have also seen month-by-month declines in retail sales growth. By June, Guangzhou's retail sales growth for the first half of the year had flatlined at 0%, while Shenzhen's growth stood at just 1%. This year, June saw the sharpest drop in retail sales across the country, with all four major cities experiencing significant declines in consumption. Compared to May, retail sales in Shanghai fell by 11%, Beijing by 12.8%, Guangzhou by 10.2%, and Shenzhen by 3.2%. These cities, known for their economic strength, large populations, and thriving business activities, were once the leaders in consumer spending. But now, instead of driving China's consumption growth, their retail sales are dragging it down. The luxury industry's falling sales are another sign of China's economic struggles. Advertising giant WPP, listed in London, recently reported that its second quarter sales in China dropped by nearly a quarter. French skincare and cosmetics company L'Oreal estimated a 2 to 3% drop in its China sales for the first half of this year, compared to the same period last year. German automaker Porsche also reported a 1/3 drop in its China sales for the first half of the year. In mid-July, Chinese industry insiders released the 2024 Youth Consumption Trends Report for first-tier cities. The report found that young consumers in China's biggest cities are moving away from chasing luxury brands and are now more focused on value for money and quality. Instead of blindly paying for brand names, they're choosing products and services that meet their real needs and desires. This shift suggests that more people can no longer afford high-end luxury goods and are turning to cheaper, more comfortable alternatives. This has led many luxury brands to believe that China is now the only place in the world where consumer confidence remains low. With a weak job market and many people's savings tied up in real estate now significantly devalued, Chinese consumers simply don't have the money or the desire to spend on luxury items. With people unable to or unwilling to spend, the government is left with little choice but to raise prices on essential goods to stimulate the economy and consumption. As one commentator put it, if people aren't spending, raise their living expenses. Start by increasing utility bills, then raise prices across the board for essentials like rice, flour, and cooking oil. The things people can afford are all getting more expensive, while the things they can't afford are getting cheaper. Prices change every day. Behind all this, it's possible that the Chinese government's price controls and inflation are the real culprits. In his video, blogger Xia Xiaoshuo mentioned, "Why did vegetable prices suddenly spike so much? Some say it's because the rain caused supply shortages. But let me tell you, it all started with rising costs for things like high-speed rail tickets, utilities, and big infrastructure projects. Then everyday goods like instant noodles, preserved vegetables, and lao gan ma started going up too. So the rise in vegetable prices is actually linked to the government's attempt to stimulate spending and boost the economy. In the past, the economy grew through exports, investments, and rising housing prices. Now, people are feeling the economy slowing down, and it's harder to make money. So instead of spending, people are saving. To get the economy moving again, they've resorted to raising prices, especially for things that people need. So you have no choice but to spend. People used to hate high housing prices because it squeezed their ability to spend on things like travel or leisure. But now that housing prices are dropping, people are spending even less. So since no one's spending, they're raising the prices of necessities to force consumption. The soaring prices of essential goods are not only affecting people's daily lives, but are also squeezing various industries and becoming a source of social instability. China's restaurant industry, with its huge losses, serves as a prime example of this growing issue. Heir to the Peijie Chongqing hotpot chain Yan Dongsheng commented that the consumer market is very weak this year. He noted that the entire market is struggling, and people are cutting back on how often they spend. "I've slowed down as well," he said. "I'm opening fewer stores because survival comes first. Only then can we hope for better times." At the same time, it's becoming common to see 9.9 yuan deals for milk tea, coffee, and even fast food. In May, the restaurant chain Shabu Shabu announced price cuts, with most meal sets now priced around 50 yuan, and the average price of items on their new menu dropped by more than 10%. Country-style cooking CSC has also repeatedly lowered prices this year, with promotional events in June claiming prices have returned to 2008 levels. Some businesses are even offering poor man's meal sets and leftover mystery boxes, where unsold, sometimes expired food is bundled together and sold cheaply. This trend is spreading across the country, even to first-tier cities like Beijing and Shanghai, where young people are now flocking to eat at low-cost senior cafeterias. Faced with an increasingly competitive, low-profit market, the primary goal for restaurant giants is simply to stay afloat and maintain cash flow. Chairman Wang Guoyu of Nancheng Xiang Restaurant in Beijing noted that market prices are falling, profits are shrinking, and the busy season is no longer busy. He warned that winter will be tough, saying, "The money you earn in the first half of the year might be wiped out during the winter. Don't think better days are ahead. Things may only get harder in the future. Don't expect things to improve in a few years. This is the reality, and with the crazy price hikes in vegetables and fruits, the restaurant industry will face even slimmer margins on their already discounted meals, making the road ahead even tougher.